Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing? Happy Venus Day, Black Friday. Um, it's actually Saturn Day, the 30th, technically, Venus night, 12:25 a.m. It is a Jupiter hour. And I wanted to mention a couple things about this new moon coming up tonight, actually in less than 24 hours. So I believe it's at 11:20 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's going to be at 9 degrees and 32 minutes in the sign of Sagittarius. And there are several aspects to this new moon. And when we look to, and new moons are for setting new intentions and planting new seeds. So that's when the moon and the sun are conjunct in the sky. So it's not going to be visible. The moon will not be visible. So the sun will have set and the moon will be with the sun. So we won't be able to see this. We won't be able to see the moon for a couple days when it separates from the sun a little bit. But yeah, when we look at any lunation, we look at the ruler of the sign that the lunation is in. And this one is in the sign of Sagittarius. So the ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter, which is currently in the opposite sign of Sagittarius, Gemini. And Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so it's very detail oriented. It's always looking at, what's on the other end of the spectrum, what's on the other side of the coin. Gemini energy is very good at considering what the other options are. And with Jupiter in Gemini, Jupiter expands anything it touches, the sign that it's in. So that can look like a lot of different options, so much information coming at us. And I don't know about you, but there's just been so much to consider with all of this new information that's being revealed about, you name it, anything under the sun, in the ocean, UFOs, aliens in the ocean. And then, on the other end of that spectrum, I guess you can say the mundane, tangible things, the things that we have to deal with on an everyday level, administrative processes, that kind of information can be overwhelming. And the ruler of Gemini is Mercury, and Mercury is in the sign of Sagittarius where the new moon is. And Mercury and Jupiter are both retrograde. So Mercury is at 20 degrees Sagittarius, and Jupiter is at 17 degrees Gemini. So what I found interesting were the Sabian symbols for both of these planets, Mercury and Jupiter. And if we look at, we'll say Jupiter because it's the ruler of Sagittarius. The degree that it's at is at 17 degrees, but it is retrograde. And typically, looking at Sabian symbols, we look at the next degree higher. But it is retrograde, so I was curious about the degree prior, 16 degrees. But all three, 16, 17, and 18 degrees, the Sabian symbols for each of those are very interesting. So the 16-degree Sabian symbol is a woman activist in an emotional speech dramatizing her cause. And this can emphasize passion for communication and the power of words to inspire or provoke change. And it represents advocacy, self-expression, connecting with others emotionally through a shared vision or mission. And it invites clarity in presenting one's ideas and values with conviction. And that totally tracks because, today I was actually on a walk with a neighbor, which Gemini is all of those things. It's like neighbors, going for a walk, your local surroundings. And we were talking about the state of the world right now and, the shift that we are currently experiencing as a collective, and our beliefs of what the collective has been programmed to believe all these years as far as voting and things that are related to Jupiter. Jupiter is connected to justice and the law, natural law. There's a lot of conversation about natural law and how it is connected to the laws that we have today. So that tracks 16 degrees, Sabian symbol, a woman activist in an emotional speech, dramatizing her cause. I was, excited to talk about, what I've been discovering, and I wouldn't say I was dramatizing, but you know, there is that out in the world. And then 17 degrees Gemini is the head of a robust youth changes into that of a mature thinker. So this symbolizes growth, wisdom, and the transition from impulsive action to thoughtful consideration. And it speaks to a balance of vitality and maturity, suggesting the evolution of one's ideas or perspectives as they gain deeper understanding and life experiences. So, I mean, we can think of that as being collectively maturing, especially with Saturn in Saturn in Pisces, which is all about emotional maturity, in a square to Jupiter. And as Jupiter goes retrograde further, like it's going to keep on reaching a 90-degree angle to Saturn. So Saturn right now is at 12 degrees. And so this is kind of like a stabilizing aspect where Jupiter can have the energy of going overboard and being very expansive to the point of, I mean, it can go so far and so, it can multiply so much that it can become a detriment to whatever it is. And Saturn is the energy of restriction and like kind of putting limits on the expansiveness. And in the sign of Pisces, like this is speaking to, you know, your energy levels. Does it resonate? Does this information that Jupiter and Gemini is putting out, there's so much information. It could be like a deluge of, you know, information, and we have to really use our discernment, our intuition to decipher whether it aligns with us or not, like whether it's true or if it's just propaganda, or, you know, we have to kind of determine for ourselves if, you know, it's just too far out there, or, you know, we can utilize that Saturn in Pisces to make decisions to engage with that piece of information or not. So it's like a maturing, you know, like maybe an immature type of mind would just be very excited and curious and, you know, like be like, really, like, you know, like very excited but naive, I guess you could say. And so 17 degrees Gemini is that shift into a mature thinker. And then 18 Gemini is, the Sabian symbol is two Chinese men converse in their native tongue in an American city. So this degree highlights cultural exchange, maintaining one's identity in unfamiliar environments, and the bridging of diverse worlds. And it suggests the importance of connection, understanding, and celebrating differences, as well as navigating dualities in life or identity. So especially with, you know, Thanksgiving, realizing that that holiday has been falsely written and falsely documented, and now understanding the truth behind the events of that day can, you know, make people feel certain ways. And this 18-degree Gemini, like this is kind of like, you know, that feeling where like two Chinese men conversing in their native tongue in an American city. This is, you know, if anybody speaks their native language and you're in a crowd of Americans and you have an opinion about what's going on around you, and you are speaking with your family or your partner in your native language about what's going on around you, it's like you're, I mean, like, for lack of a better analogy, like, you know, you're talking shit about what's going on around you in a way that you're acknowledging it amongst the two of you, but the people around you are not aware. Or, yeah, that's kind of like that vibe of the, and I don't want to like generalize American people, but just as far as the American history and the history books, you know, the people that wrote the history books, it's kind of like, you know, the two Chinese men conversing in their native language, and it could be like the Native Americans conversing in their native tongue, like, you know, this story about Thanksgiving, that didn't really happen, you know, like this is what really happened. So it's like that kind of energy. So it's so appropriate, and it lines up, of course, per usual astrology. And then looking at the Sabian symbols for Mercury in Sagittarius, also retrograde, it's at 20 degrees, 2020, actually at the time of the new moon, which is interesting. 2020 is like 2020 hindsight. And it is retrograde, which is all about, well, I mean, the past can come up, and going within and reflecting on this new, I mean, old information, but like seeing it with new eyes. So 20 degrees Sagittarius is in winter, people cutting ice from a frozen pond for summer use. So this symbol reflects preparation and foresight and speaks to resourcefulness, conversation, planning for future needs. It suggests taking action to ensure sustainability and security even in challenging circumstances. So like being resourceful, planning ahead, planting new seeds, it's perfect for this new moon in Sag. And then a child for 21 degrees Sagittarius, the Sabian symbol is a child and a dog wearing borrowed eyeglasses. So this symbol emphasizes perspective and the playful exploration of new ways of seeing the world. It symbolizes curiosity, experimentation, and the need for guidance when attempting to view things from a different angle. So, yeah, Sagittarius is it's ruled by Jupiter, which is also a very optimistic, can be blindly optimistic, rose-colored glasses. I mean, Pisces is not the only sign that has rose-colored glasses. They're both ruled by Jupiter, but very, optimistic and can be spontaneous, like hopes for the best, like uses humor and everything. Doesn't really like to be weighed down by like uptightness or rigidity or formality for that matter. Inflexibility. Like Jupiter likes to see or Sagittarius likes to see what other options are out there as well, in a way that's adventurous and spontaneous. And the invitation for this new moon is also to embrace gratitude, just being, thankful for the silver linings that can come with hiccups, that can come with like an interruption in schedule. Like maybe, there's the need to, backtrack and do things over because like maybe there was a delay in the train, and so you're having to reroute. But in that process, you were able to also have some time to yourself and, enjoy and relax and, take your time instead of like rushing. I mean, just be grateful for what transpires. Everything happens for a reason. Like I feel like that's totally a Sagittarius mantra, like tagline, and totally it's for sure it's true. And then the Sabian symbol for 19 degrees Sag is pelicans disturbed by the garbage of people move their young to a new habitat. So this symbol represents adaptation, protection, and environmental awareness, and highlights the need to safeguard what is precious, symbolized by the pelicans and their young, when faced with external disruptions or harmful influences. On a deeper level, it can speak to a sense of responsibility for future generations, a desire to create safer or cleaner environments, and the need for resilience and resourcefulness in the face of adversity. It suggests moving away from negative influences or toxic environments to preserve integrity, balance, and growth. And being Black Friday, like I definitely felt that energy everywhere. Like I didn't notice a whole lot of people. Like I was running errands with my neighbor, and there weren't I didn't notice a lot of people with, armfuls of shopping bags, like usual. And, maybe it's the energy of the balsamic moon, and it is Mercury retrograde. Anything you buy, or like there's the potential of probability of, things that you buy will need to be returned, or, like there's that cautionary approach in, making purchases. Like I feel like people are a lot more conscious of what they're buying now, and if it really is sustainable, and if it's, fair trade, if it's made with love, if it's, not harming the earth. So maybe that's just my optimistic perspective but being the Sabian symbol of 19 degrees, and Mercury is retrograde at 20 degrees, so it's moving into 19 degrees. I feel like that's definitely, that definitely tracks. And this Mercury retrograde is in a trine to Chiron in Aries, which is also retrograde. And so this is the feeling of, like the wounded healer is the energy of feeling insecure, or there is some sort of wound that has been, placed on us. And this is our collective Chiron in Aries. And the U.S. Chiron is actually at 20 degrees Aries. And it's that feeling of not being like action-oriented or assertive or decisive about who you want to be or claim to be, like asserting your independence and self-sufficiency and having that your identity. And with this trine to Mercury and Sagittarius, I think that speaks to like letting go of the programming. Like we identified ourselves with, taking advantage of these deep discounts on Black Friday for the holidays. And, it's such a social thing too. Like, families after the day after Thanksgiving will either, like go to a movie or go shopping Black Friday and just like buy all these, like look for things to buy to wrap for Christmas. But, like there could be this realization that, they're looking at the gifts or thinking about the gifts that they bought last year and like, where are they now? Like what happened to them? All the toys, the clothes, like have they been thrown out? Like what happened to them? Like it's, the marketing and the stuff, like the tangible things that are being thrown in our faces at deep discounts are becoming less valuable. We use our hard-earned money to buy these things that just end up in the landfill for what, like there's no intrinsic value, like it's like a shopping therapy maybe, or is it to satisfy some other sort of social need, like everybody else is doing it, or what am I going to have to give them on Christmas Day? Like there was a reel or something that someone made, and it was like a 1 or 2 year old sitting in his high chair, and the parent put 2 objects in front of him. One was like a toy that you get from Toys R Us or something, and then one was like an everyday object, like a brush, or just something that is always just lying around the house that's actually useful. And so the mom would put a toy and then an everyday object, like each time the kid chose the everyday object. And so this like brightly colored, like plastic toy is not interesting. Like instinctively the baby went for the everyday item. So I mean that's, I even do that with Vesta, my cat. Like I don't buy cat toys, like everyday items, the toilet paper, empty toilet paper roll. I mean, he's happy like batting that around. Or, like even these, what is this? Like there was like something broke off of it was the end of a, what do you call it, Swiffer handle, and it broke off, and like, yeah, he loves this. Like he just chews it, and cords or whatever, like little rubber things. I don't know, like you just can be resourceful, which is, what the 20 degree Sabian symbol is for Sagittarius. People cutting ice from a frozen pond for summer use. Like, you can be resourceful and turn anything into something useful. So, yeah, I feel like this new moon in Sagittarius is a lot of releasing any kind of rigidity, nervousness, uptightness about, having things just so perfect, like releasing perfectionism, or the perception of perfectionism based on past paradigms, based on programming or conditioning, like what has been projected to us on TV through commercials. Like if you don't have this, certain type of microphone, like what kind of presentation can you really have? Or, if you have visitors coming over and you don't have every little placemat in place, or candle, just so, or the right color or whatnot. Is it the end of the world? No. So, and then, if we look at Aries, the North Node is also in Aries and at 4 degrees. And we look at the ruler of Aries, which is Mars. And Mars is in Leo, which is another fire sign, and it's at 5 degrees. And so that's a trine to the North Node. There, I spoke about this grand fire trine between Mars and the Sun in Sag and the North Node in Aries, and considering that like Braveheart energy, Braveheart bound was my little analogy for that. And so Mars in the sign of Leo is being daring and unabashedly expressive and confident, and really coming to your leadership, like from the heart, like doing things and feeling things from the heart. So there's this circuit of fire energy that's really encouraging us to just do it. Like fire energy is the type of energy that does things for itself, it doesn't consider, it's not worried about appeasing others. It's all about the self, like curiosity and adventure, and just going for it, and figuring it out later. Like, what is that saying? Like something like take action and ask questions later, something like that. Consider with the retrogrades, Mercury and Jupiter in retrograde, this is a time to just kind of like go within and consider the beliefs that we have been conditioned to believe. This is a good time to like write things down with the retrograde Mercury and Jupiter, and then come back to them and revisit these ideas and thoughts and beliefs after the retrograde. Mercury goes direct on the 15th, and Jupiter goes direct, I believe it's like mid-January. Jupiter, February. So February 4th is when Jupiter goes direct at 11 degrees of Gemini. And December 6th, Mars in Leo will go retrograde at 6 degrees, which is where the United States of America North Node is. So this is significant because it can it'll totally reshape, redirect, the North Node destiny of the United States of America. And it's going to be in, like a loose opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is going to be sitting at 0 degrees Aquarius for a few years, but it's like, it's in the same decan, like it's within the same 10 degrees of, first 10 degrees of each sign, Leo and Aquarius. So it's going to be a call to action, and like really reflecting on the like a soul purpose, or the goals and ambitions that we have for ourselves, and how it affects the collective. Like, is it helpful? Is it useful? Is it inspiring? We're going to really need the artists and the musicians, and all this heart-centered passion to come through, however that looks, as long as it's authentic. It's the energy of putting that out in the world and not keeping it to yourself, because that's like the biggest like sabotage, is like having all this skill, knowledge that you've created or built to only keep to yourself. Like, this is something that must be shared with the world, without fear. Like this past couple hundred years, 500 years or so, more than that, maybe almost 600-700 years, we have slowly been poisoned to believe that we have this higher power to depend on, and that has only weakened our creative intelligence, our creative intuition, and our power. So, this is another signature of reclaiming our power. The 20th Athena just moved into Capricorn, the 29th, and so that's creative intelligence, and Capricorn is being very organized about it, very strategic, being mature about, you know, the ways that you're going to go about building for the future. And I had mentioned Juno and Scorpio in a square to Mars in Leo, so that's, and then Pluto also in a square to Juno in Scorpio, so that's really challenging the partnerships and collaborations. And I mean, Juno is the asteroid of partnerships, of marriage, but it doesn't have to be like strictly marriages, just relationships where there are responsibilities that are understood and assumed. And so those relationships are going to be challenged, because there's going to need to be, you know, some transparency and authenticity in the relationship. But yeah, yeah, the new moon at 9 degrees, and 9 is related to Sagittarius as far as degree theory goes. So definitely explore and embrace the adventure. Like, Mercury's in retrograde for another 2 weeks. So things will not go as planned every single time. And so it's only going to weigh you down and everybody else around you if you're stuck on perfection. And there's always a silver lining when it comes to disruptions, especially with Mercury retrograde. There can always be, you know, some sort of, you know, well, that worked out for the best. Like, so focus on what you're grateful for and what you're not grateful for. Like, perfectionism is an illusion, so might as well give that up, Mercury retrograde or not. So embrace, you know, optimism, gratitude, and adventure and humor. Like, there's no need to weigh everybody down with imperfection or like the expectation of perfection, inflexibility, you know, like that just takes the joy out of everything. And we need more joy. We need more joy in this world. So if we can hold that frequency, yeah, that would be great. You know, and we do, like, if you're watching this, then you likely have that privilege to be able to, like, tune into higher frequencies, and you're not having to, like, survive and, like, clear the rubble from your sidewalk, and, you know, you have food on your plate. So hold that energy and hold that frequency so that we can co-create something that we can all enjoy. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that's hopeful. But yeah, that's I think all I wanted to mention for the new moon in Sagittarius. So yeah, it's a good new moon. It's our second new moon of the month, actually. So that's considered a black moon. When it's two full moons in 1 month, that's considered a blue moon. So 2 new moons in 1 month is a black moon. And so that's 2 opportunities to plant new seeds. And there's so much amazing synchronicities, like 20 degrees and 20 minutes, which is where Mercury is sitting. Like 20/20 is hindsight, or hindsight is 20/20. Like, that's, you know, pretty interesting synchronicity there. Retrograde at and Venus is in a trine to Uranus. So Venus in Capricorn at 23 degrees, trine Uranus in Taurus, which is retrograde at 24 degrees. So this can be a tangible outcome, because earth signs produce, like, something that is of this earth, like something physical. And it could be money as well, for sure, since Taurus is connected to our stability and money and finances, and it's ruled by Venus, and Venus is all about our self-worth and relationships with money. And Capricorn is also a earth sign that is connected to finances and organization. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. And yeah, happy new moon in Sagittarius. Hopefully I get this out in time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Neptune going direct on December 7th. So it's been sitting on my Mercury Sun consigni in the 3rd house. So I don't know, I'm going to go ahead and just be proud of myself for even getting things out at all, considering, this difficult transit. Neptune can be a very challenging energy to deal with. It makes things very cloudy and foggy, and just lack of transparency, and losing one's keys, like not being able to find, I'll forget my phone all the time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to some new clarity. So, but everything in divine timing, right? All right. Thank you so much for listening and sticking around. And yeah, again, if anybody is looking for some insight, some cosmic insight, definitely hit me up. There's some epic times that we are experiencing collectively, and it's like a great time to dive into your chart and understand the energies that are at play, so that we can proceed through this life a lot lighter and with more confidence, so that we can co-create a life that we can all enjoy by letting go of those doubts and fears and stresses. So hit me up, and yeah, I hope to see you on the next one. Until then, take good care.